As an end-of-the-year present, Cobra Kai Season 4 dropped on Netflix.
Send it to the internet!
You've had a few days to watch it, so let's stop and rank all 4 seasons of Cobra Kai from the least best to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your ranking of all 4 seasons of Cobra Kai. My list isn't the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours. As we go into this, I don't think there's a bad season of this show. I think all 4 seasons are good, and I'm happy to rewatch the entire show every time a new season drops. With that said, let's get started. Coming in last place, Season 2. Now, this show is just as addictive as the other seasons, where every episode kind of has a self-contained story while expanding the meta-narrative of the entire season. And then when you get to the end of each episode, there's always just some new reveal, some twist, some turn that hooks you, that makes you want to watch the next episode immediately. It continues the format of the first season, where so much of the conflict doesn't just feel overcooked. It feels like it's based off misunderstandings, different values, and information being recovered or discovered at just the wrong timing to lead to a negative reaction that kind of sets a series of conflicts in motion. Likewise, because each of our 2 male leads have their own dojo, you really start to see all the ways that they're similar, all the ways that they're different, all the ways their character flaws won't allow them to give the other person the benefit of the doubt. They won't give the other person any grace. That pushes so much of this forward unnecessarily, but it does go back to their character flaws and their shared history.
You still got one thing that's more important than anything, Johnny. You still have time.
Adding Kreese into the mix changes things up just enough at Cobra Kai to keep it interesting, and there's plenty of teenage politics drama that frustrates you in just the right way. And of course, all of that teenage politics boils over in the finale with this big, gigantic, epic fight at the high school. But I feel like Season 2 has a serious focus problem.
You stay focused.
This season continues the characters' arcs and the journey, but it's not building towards something specific. So much of what I loved about Season 1 as well as The Karate Kid is it's just this timeless story about this loser kid that doesn't have many friends, that finds an unlikely mentor, finds his confidence, and defeats his bullies. But because there's such a hard turn at the end of Season 1, where the Cobra Kai kids start to turn into bullies themselves, the show starts to lose its journey a little bit because you're not really rooting for them anymore, and you're not really rooting for Miyagi-Do and whatever they're trying to do because it's a rivalry of misunderstandings, and the season itself isn't building towards any one particular thing, so we're moving forward. The melodrama is still addictive, it's still fun to watch, but it doesn't have the payoff that you get in the better seasons of this show, where you know what you're headed towards and what you're supposed to feel. So much of what this show is about is showing how everyone is a little bit good, a little bit bad. So the kids that were jerks in the first season are softened a little bit here, and you get to see their good side. And the kids that we were rooting for, that were the good guys in the first season, suddenly are kind of jerks in this season. And so because of that, we're kind of in that awkward middle season of the transition of where everything's at. Likewise, there's more of a focus on the high schoolers, the teenage politics. As I graduated from high school over 20 years ago, I find the adult characters more fascinating, so that focus made me enjoy some of it a little bit less. But like in this season, Tori is just insufferable. Miguel is unlikable. Robbie's a little bit better. I think they improved him in this season just a little bit by showing him his good side. But overall, still enjoyable. No problems rewatching this season. But of the bunch, I feel like this is the one that it didn't know exactly what it was moving towards. It was just moving forward. So when you move into the last couple episodes, there's no like emotional payoff. There's not satisfying character arcs. It's just more of a show that I enjoy. Coming in third place is Season 3. After the events of the Season 2 finale, this season kicks off with an appropriately weighty, emotional beginning where our two mentor characters are really shaken up by what's taken place. The students themselves have had dire consequences. One is on the run, one is in the hospital, and one has lost their confidence. And that sets up clear journeys for what everyone is trying to do in this season. And as an improvement over season 2, lines are much more clearly drawn of who's good, who's bad, who you want to have a redemptive arc, who is clearly playing a villain, who is clearly trying to be restored to be a hero. It's much more defined, so you know what you're working towards. Even when there's characters that are doing evil things, you get that sense of when you want them to have a redemptive arc, to turn back to the good side. You have that sense of the people that are designed just to be pure evil, and likewise, which characters we're wanting to step up into their confidence and kind of fulfill that role in their lives. Likewise, there's a renewed focus on the relationship between Gianni and Miguel, especially because of what happened to Miguel. He has this new arc to getting back to where he was at before, just even regaining the ability to walk. And so that has a lot of weight to it as Gianni cares so much about him. There's a lot of great moments in that. There's also a lot of great humor in that as him, Gianni being still Gianni and trying to help someone that can't walk anymore.
It's all right, you felt like a champ.
Probably the most improved player for this season would be Dimitri, who was just the absolute worst, the whiniest in the first 2 seasons, and then they start to actually make him someone that's much more pleasant to be around in this season. We get a bunch of time with Daniel and Gianni actually kind of working together a little bit, which is very satisfying after the long journey of conflict that they've been in up to this point in time. And we get to spend by far the most time with Kreese we've ever gotten, and fleshed out his character, given him a backstory to help us understand how he turned into this man with such a cynical, dark worldview. And it informs so much of what he does in this show. And then the other great thing about this season is that there are so many callbacks, references to the original trilogy with some returning characters we get to spend time with, play catch up with where they're at. All that said, we still do have some problems here. First one, similar to season 2, there is a bit of a lack of focus. It has more focus because the characters have purposes, but as for a narrative, watching it through, especially the first time, I wasn't sure what we were building towards, what the finale was going to be. It felt like a middle chapter just leading up to the next tournament. Other one, while some of the Vietnam flashbacks helped me to understand Kreese a little bit more, others felt like they're trying to go beyond the scope of what their show could actually pull off. And so it felt cheap whenever we went to Vietnam. And then by ending with literal Mortal Kombat, where they're battling over on a bridge over a pit of snakes with fatalities. Finish him! It just went way too far. Like, really the wrong direction to take some of that stuff. And then the other one here is that by this season, Cobra Kai stops being bullies. They've always broken the rules. They've always been mean-spirited and cruel.
Sweep the leg. You have a problem with that?
Here they're in full-blown felony mode. They break Dimitri's arm. They break into Daniel's house and they assault people. And it just strains too much credibility that the police aren't getting involved when these types of activities are taking place. So overall, a nice, solid season with a bunch of elements that I loved. It's just kind of a few things in there that kind of pulled it back just a little bit for me. Real quick before I give you my final 2, remember to share your ranking down below in the comment section. Also, I've done a bunch of other Cobra Kai content, ranked the Karate Kid movies, ranked the final battles, the characters. I'm going to rank the episodes of season 4 in just a couple days. If you've enjoyed this video, I've got more like it up in this playlist and more coming over the next week. Our runner-up, season 4, and for me, this was easily the best season since the original. By having this season once again leading up to the tournament that just gave everything a focus and a point where everything could pay off in a very clear way. From the very beginning, you know where each character is at and what their journey is for the season, and it's designed in so many different ways that their fights and their responses to the fights in the tournament are the payoff to all the character arc, all the development that's been taking place. This was just a really nicely structured season that delivered everything that I like from this show. Of course, it's so satisfying when you see Daniel and Johnny trying to work together.
Come on, we're gonna get sued here.
Sue me for what?
Still butting heads because they have such differing worldviews and perspectives on karate, but just seeing them trying to work together is in and of itself highly entertaining. And as the season goes along and they have their conflicts and their splits, I loved the way that it was the teenagers were the ones that understood the lesson of the season from the very beginning, and they were trying to teach it to Johnny and Daniel.
I just want what's best for Miguel and all of your students.
So now you know what's best for Miguel.
It was the grown-ups that had this stubbornness of my way is the right way that led to so much of what went wrong in this season. And as much as like Sam has much more of a darker side here, she also has a wisdom in the idea that she wants to learn from Johnny, and Miguel wants to learn from Daniel. Loved a lot of those dynamics in the season. Likewise, the return of Terry Silver, who was like the most ridiculous element of the original trilogy of films, and this season reframes him a little bit, gives some context for his actions, throws a little bit of cocaine into the mix, and suddenly he's a much more fleshed out, nuanced character.
You just don't want to admit there's always been a little Cobra Kai in you.
He's tried to be a better person, has had times where he's reflected on how crazy what he did was in Karate Kid, and he acknowledges all of that. And so I just thought it was just this great new dynamic to throw into the show that made his character better and made this show better. And much like how in season 3, Dimitri was the most improved player, here I think Tori and Robbie got big improvements where they did much better jobs here, making them sympathetic characters, fleshed out characters, where they explained their actions and their motivations in a better way to help us understand where they're coming from, and that balance of dark and light inside of them. I thought they were very much improved over what they had done with them in season 3. And as I said before, when you move into the finale of this season, it just paid off so well because they'd properly given characters arcs, journeys that they were on. I just found it so satisfying. I just still do think it carries along a lot of the problems that you had in season 3 of too many felonies are being committed. Too many violent assaults are taking place and the police aren't getting involved, and it just strains too much credibility.
You have a problem with that.
But another thoroughly entertaining season, highly addictive, and also probably the most emotional season of this show. There's just some gut-wrenching scenes between Miguel and Johnny where each of them are being vulnerable, just presenting what's been going on inside of their hearts. And then Johnny says the absolute wrong thing is the payoff to this scene that was already just tugging at your heartstrings. And then Johnny, in his drunken state, calls Miguel Robbie, and you're just like, oh no, why did that have to happen? And that's what this season did so very well. I can't wait until season 5. But coming in first place is season 1. I remember when they first announced this show, and I thought it was just another ill-conceived, lazy Hollywood reboot where instead of coming up with something new, they provided a revival of something that no one was asking for.
No! God, please, no! No!
And then when it dropped on YouTube Red, where it originally debuted, they gave away the first 2 episodes for free, and so I checked it out with my wife, just ironically, looking to hate it. We got to the end of it, and I was like, I think I'm liking that. I wonder what my wife thought. And she goes, are we going to watch the next episode? So then we immediately watched the next episode, signed up for YouTube Red, and then binged through the entire thing. And boy, was I happy to be absolutely wrong about this show. What sounded like an abysmal idea turned out to be a shockingly respectful continuation of the mythology that was also really funny. They managed to find a way to change the tone and the vibe of the Karate Kid while keeping its heart and the themes that have made this the timeless tale. They brought all of that into a new generation. And of course, William Zabka as Johnny is just an absolute legend.
Hey, brohams. Want to score those hot babes? Try karate.
And given so many amazing lines.
So you can leave your asthma and your peanut allergies and all that other made-up bullshit outside. Is that understood? And you don't want to be a pussy. You want to have balls.
Don't you think you're doing a lot of genderizing?
What?
Taking Johnny, this relic of the past, and dropping him into this context where he's training modern-day politically correct high schoolers is just an amazing combination, and something that I'm shocked has actually become so wildly popular in the current climate and context. The first half of the season just does a great job of telling very much a Karate Kid-esque story about this new kid who's getting bullied and finds an unlikely mentor, but it does it in a totally different way from what the original Karate Kid did. Johnny is not Mr. Miyagi whatsoever. The bullies at the high school aren't from a karate dojo, but it manages to have all of the beats and payoffs, but in a new package, in a new way, so it's still fresh while delivering that full experience that you want from a Karate Kid journey character arc. Another nice progression here is there's a lot more moral complexity. In the original Karate Kid, it was pretty clear, good guys, bad guys, and here it much more makes the argument that we all have some good and some bad, and with the extended runtime of a season versus just a movie, it's able to kind of layer on motivations and value sets and make so much of the tension and conflict come from misunderstandings and different interpretations of events, and making it feel earned rather than these are the bad guys and these are the good guys. It's a show where so much of the conflict could be avoided if our two lead characters, Daniel and Johnny, would just sit down and talk and trust one another, but because they have such a volatile history and different perspective on what took place, they don't trust each other, and thus they keep failing to give each other the benefit of the doubt. They always assume the worst of the other person that just keeps escalating everything that's happening and continues to happen. And it is that reversals of characters with Johnny and Daniel, and it just gives such different perspectives on all the events that take place that makes so much of it so compelling and feel earned. To me, this season was the best this show had to offer because it best captured the magic of the original Karate Kid.
We did it! We did it! All right!
The simplicity, the purity of this season to me, and the purity of their relationships and the mentor dynamics, that's what elevates this one for me. So it comes in at number 1. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, I've got more like it right over there in that playlist with my other Karate Kid and Cobra Kai content, as well as I've got more rankings coming later on this week. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much and TV.